So lesson 7 is going to be looking into formatting worksheets. So we will look into working with the rows and columns, using themes, inserting headers and footers, and preparing our document for printing. Most of the commands we will use will be either in the Home tab or the Page Layouts tab, okay? So working with the rows and columns. So when working with the rows and columns in Excel, you can insert or delete rows and columns in an existing worksheet. You can increase or decrease the row height and column width. You can hide and unhide rows and columns. And there's also something called transposing. So you can transpose data that appears in a row to appear in a column and vice versa. Okay, so let's first look into inserting or deleting a row or column. You will often need to insert additional rows or columns into a worksheet. To insert a row, select the row or cell in the row below which you want the new row to appear. The new row is then inserted above the selected cell or row. To insert multiple rows, select the same number of rows that you want to insert. Inserting columns works the exact same way, except columns are inserted to the left of the selected cell or column. By default, the insert column is formatted the same as the column to the left. And also to delete a cell, to delete a row or column, right click on the row number or on the column letter and click delete in the shortcut menu. Okay, so let's look into adding and deleting some rows and columns. Okay, so if we open 07 messenger row column. So for this exercise, we're going to be using this workbook. Okay, so there's different ways that you can insert or delete rows or columns. So I'm going to go through all the options. So to insert cells, so to insert columns, sorry. So say if you want to insert a column at this point, what will happen is a new column will get inserted and H will get shifted, okay? So to do so, there's different ways that you can do it. You can either click on that column and then right click and click insert, and that will insert a new column and it will shift the other columns to the right. Or you can go into the cells command group where it says insert, click on this drop down and insert sheet columns, okay? And I will also insert a column for you. You can also delete columns the same way. If you want to delete a column, again, simply you can right click on it and click on delete and it will delete that column. You can also do it through this method as well. So instead of clicking on insert, you will click on delete and delete sheet columns as well. Same process works for the rows as well. So insert sheet rows. Now, if you noticed here, I highlighted a couple rows. So if I highlight 3 rows, it's gonna and click on insert, it's gonna end up inserting 3 rows above where I just highlighted, and it will shift down the other cells as well. So that's how you would insert and delete rows and columns. Again, to delete those rows, we can simply just highlight them, delete them through here, or simply just click on where the numbers are and then click on delete, and it will delete those rows for us. We can also modify the row height and the column width. By default, all the columns in a new worksheet are the same width and all the rows are the same height. Modifying the height of rows and width of columns can be can make a worksheet's content easier to read and increase its visual appeal. You can set a row or column to be a specific height or width, or change the height or width to fit the contents. To change the height and width settings, we can use the format commands in the cell group of the Home tab. We can use the shortcut menu that appears on the when you right click on the selected row or column, or you can use you can double click and drag the boundary line. So how, like I showed you in the previous either lesson 1 or lesson 2, is adjusting these widths and heights using these boundary lines that you have here, that when you hover over, you will get a double-headed arrow appear. Okay, so like I mentioned before, one method is to use the boundary line. So if we look into here, you can see that date is not visible at the moment. This is because the width of this column is too small for the data to be displayed properly. So what we can do is there's different ways to show this data properly and increase the column width. We can either simply drag this. So if we hover over the boundary line between E and F, we can drag this double-headed arrow and increase it ourselves. We can also double click on this boundary line and it will automatically set the right width for us. You can also, if you have a bunch of other columns that aren't displaying the data properly, what you can do is if you click here where this triangle is at the top corner, top left corner, you'll see that all of these rows and columns get highlighted now. And what you can do is by doing this, you're highlighting all the rows and columns. And essentially, if you click on double click on any of these boundary lines, it will set and adjust the row height, column width, sorry, automatically for all of the rows to the correct width for the data to be displayed. So instead of you having to do it one by one, if you do it this method and click on any of these boundary lines, doesn't matter which one, it will set the correct width automatically for you for all those data to be displayed properly. You can also customize the column width or the row height via this section here again. So if we click on format now, and here we'll see some options where it says row height, auto fit, width, auto fit the column width. Okay, so if you choose the auto fit one, it will automatically do it for you. If we want to set a custom, for example, row height or width, column width, we can also do that as well. So our current row height seems to be 32.3. So if we set it to 40, it's going to increase that row height for us for that first cell. So if we select some rows, format, row height, and set these to 20, and increase that row height for those cells, for those rows that we selected for us to a specific number that we can set ourselves. Again, if we set it to automatic fit, it will just set it to the necessary height for the data just to be displayed without any white space being visible. So there's loads of different ways to insert, delete, adjust the row height, column width. So it's really up to you which method that you choose to go for. You can also hide or unhide a row or a column. So you may not want or need all rows and columns in a worksheet to be visible all the time, particularly if the worksheet contains a large number of rows or columns. So what you can do is you can hide a row or column by using the hide or setting the row height or column width to 0. When rows are hidden, they do not appear on screen or in printouts, but the data remains and can be unhidden later on. Okay, so let's look into hiding some columns. So to hide columns, what you can do is say we want to hide column F. Okay, so what you do is there's different ways of doing this one as well. You can select column F, and if you go again back to format in the cells command group, click on the drop down arrow, and here you'll see something called visibility, and here it will say hide or unhide. Um, Again, you can hide rows, columns, hide sheets. So if we select hide columns, it's going to hide that column for us. Now the data for it hasn't been deleted. It's just simply that we've hidden this column. And you can tell when a column is hidden. How? If you pay close attention, where we hid that column, you'll notice that instead of one boundary line, there are now two vertical boundary lines. So that is where a column has been hidden. Now to unhide this column, what we can do is we can simply so this column was column F that we hid. So to unhide it, we can select from E to G. And again, there's different ways to do this. We can either right click and click on unhide, and it will unhide that column for us. Or we can go into format again, click on hide and unhide, and click on unhide columns. And again, it will do the same thing for us. Same process with the rows. You can hide multiple rows at a time. If you highlight those rows, you don't have to do it necessarily through here. You can highlight these rows, and if you right click here again, through the shortcut menu, click on hide. It's going to hide all of those cells that we select, like, all those rows that we selected for us. And if you notice here, we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 16. So it jumps from 5 to 16. And we can see again that there is two now horizontal boundary lines between 5 and 16, which indicates that we have hidden rows here. And again, to unhide those rows, we select from 5 to 16, right click, and you can kind of unhide, and it will unhide those rows for you. Transposing rows or columns. So transposing a row or column causes your cell data to change orientation. So row data will become column data, and column data will become row data. We can do this through using the paste special command to perform this type of cell copying. In the paste special dialog box, we can select the transpose checkbox to transpose row or column data. So if we look into doing this, so to do this, like I mentioned before, is what you can do to transpose this data is here we're going to select rows from 2 to 7. Okay, so here at the top we have messenger name, January, February, March, April, and here we have some names of some people. Okay, now to use the paste special, what we're going to do is first click on Control plus C to copy this. And once it's been copied, you'll notice a moving board appear around this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the clipboard command group, and where it says paste, we're going to click on this arrow down button and go all the way down to where it says paste special here. Now you'll notice a dialog box appear. Now for this dialog box, from here, we're looking to transpose this data, like I mentioned before. Now to do this, we're going to select this checkbox here that says transpose. Now, if you pay attention here, um, like I mentioned before, we have messenger name, January, February, March at the top here, and we have the names of the people down here. Okay, if we click on OK, oops, sorry, if we click here, we have to click here and then click on paste, go to paste special, transpose. And now you'll notice that we've pasted this table here, but we've transposed its data. So basically what's happened is you'll notice that previously the names of the people were here, but now they've been transposed and moved here. And the months were here previously, but now have been transposed and moved here. So that's what transposing does. Next, moving on to using themes. So a document theme is a predefined set of colors, fonts, and effects that can be applied to a workbook. Using document themes to easily format a entire document. The themes are used in other Office applications as well. So you might have noticed that you can use themes in PowerPoint and in Word as well. And using themes will uniform the look in terms of colors, fonts, and effects. So effects such as shadows or bevels modify the appearance of an object. Excel has several predefined document themes. When you apply a theme to a workbook, the colors, fonts, and the effects contained within the theme replace any styles that were previously applied. So if you have previous, um, formatting applied to these cells, once you apply a theme, that formatting that you previously will be overwritten. Now to apply a theme, we go to the page layout tab here, and you will see you'll see a themes command group. And from this themes command group, so if we go into this first sheet that we have here, you'll notice that this is what it currently looks like. So we can apply a theme to this as well. So page layout, go to themes command group, and from here, there's a bunch of themes that we can select from. And as you can see, once as I'm hovering over these different themes, the color and the formatting is changing as well. Okay. So it's up to you to decide whichever theme you like the look of the best, and if you want to apply that, then go ahead and apply it. So from here, you've noticed that the coloring scheme has changed, the font has changed as well. So that is it for themes. Let's look into now inserting headers and footers. So headers or footers provide useful information about the worksheet, such as who prepared it, the date it was created or last modified, the page number, and so on. So the header and footers are visible in the page layout view and appear on the printout. A header is a line of text that appears at the top of the page of each page when it's being printed, and a footer is a line of text that appears at the bottom of each page. You can add predefined header or footer information to a worksheet, insert elements such as the page number, date, time, and file name. You can also add your own content to the header and footer as well. So let's look into doing this. So if we close this and if we open browse a messenger header and footer. So if we go to lesson 7, messenger header and footer, you should see something like this. Now to customize the header and footer, we go to page layout, and here, from here we can customize it. Oh, sorry, from the view tab. So if you go to view tab and click on page layout, you'll see that here we have now, it says add header, and if we scroll down, we can also add our footer as well. Now, as I mentioned previously, you can add anything custom you want into these cells for these headers and footers. But there's also some predefined ones as well that you can choose from. So when you clicked on view, so if you go back to normal, so if you click on view and page layout, if you pay attention to here, once you click on the header box, you'll notice that an additional tab will appear that says header and footer. So if I click off it again, that tab will disappear. If I go back on it again, this tab will appear again. So this will enable me to customize a header and footer. So like I mentioned before, you can add anything custom that you want to this header and footer, such as the time, date, page number, page layout, yeah, page number. You can also use some predefined ones. So if we go to header and footer and select where it says header, click on that drop down, and there's some options that you can choose from here. So for example, we have this a confidential one here. So if we click on that, it's going to say confidential here. It's going to specify the date here and a page number here as well. So there's also some predefined ones that you can opt to choose from as well. Same process with the footer. Again, you can customize this to however you like it to. So again, if we click off the footer now, you'll see the tab disappear. If we click back on it again, you'll see the header and footer tab appear again. So again, you might want to specify the file path here. It's entirely up to you what you display here. Current time. So that's how you would add stuff to your header and footer. So now let's move on to looking into preparing our document for printing. So when worksheet data prints on more than one page, you can use several commands to set up your page document to print in a well organized and easy to read manner. So page break preview command on the view tab um, enables you to break data where it's most logical. You can also change page margins, change the orientation of the worksheet, scale of the worksheet to fit more data on there as well. We can also repeat row and column print titles. So in worksheets that span over 2 or more pages, you can instruct Excel to print specific rows or columns on each page to give readers a better perspective of the data they're viewing. So this way the reader won't have to go back to the first page to see the column or row heading or labels, which are also referred to as print titles. So print titles give your printed document a uniform look from the first to the last page. Okay. So if you pay attention here, so if we click on File and go to Print, you will notice that here we have a table of some that contains some data. Now, if you look here, the first couple of rows, especially the row that has the labels such as client ID, client last name, client first name, service, this is only visible on this first page. So if you go to the second page, you no longer know which column is called what because um, it's not going to be visible on that page at the moment until we repeat those certain columns that we want also on that second page as well. So let's look into doing this. So let's close this one here. Click on File and let's open '07 Messenger Print. '07 Messenger Print. Okay. Now to do this, we click on the Page Layout tab, and then from the Page Setup command group, we click where it says Print Titles. Now here it's specified our printing areas. So this is the entire range of A1 to I54. So this is this entire range. So we've selected this entire table here. So A1 to I54. And here, this is the important part. It says rows to repeat at top. So we've selected 1 to 4. And this is what it's going to essentially do, as you will see in a second. It's going to repeat those first 4 rows that we have here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, these ones, on the next page as well. Okay. So if we click on OK now, and if we go to File and Print, now everything looks normal on this page. This is the first page that we have. So the first four rows are on this page as well, as they should be. Now, previously, if you remember, when I wanted on the second page, we could no longer see the first four rows. So we couldn't see, what the um, labels for those rows were. Okay. So if we click on page 2 now, you'll notice that those initial first four rows, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that contains this, especially this fourth one, which is the important one, that contains the labels for each column, has also been repeated here as well. And this, saves someone having to, if they're looking on the second page, to, save them time having to look back every single time to see, for example, what this column was called that contains A20. So straight away we were repeating certain rows that we want to on other pages. So the readability of your workbook is easier to read when it comes to printing it out for others. So you can let's move on to adding and moving a page break. So the print window in Backstage View displays a full page preview of the worksheet just as it will appear when printed. With print preview, you can check the format and overall layout of a worksheet before actually printing it. A page break is a divider that breaks a worksheet into two separate pages before printing. So Excel Excel inserts automatic vertical page breaks based on paper size, margin settings, and scaling options and some other stuff. So Excel also provides a page break preview window in which you can quickly adjust the automatic page breaks to achieve a more desirable printed document. So to do so, we go to the View tab, and currently we're on Normal. And here to view the page break preview, we can simply click on where it says Page Break Preview, and you should see something like this. So if you pay attention here, you will notice that it says page 1 here, and very faintly it says page 2 here as well. Okay, so if we zoom in, everything that is up until this break point will be visible in page 1. Everything after this breakpoint will be visible in page 2. So if you pay close attention here, this ID 38 will be the last row on page 1, and 112 will be the first row on page 2. So if we go to File and Print, again, you will notice the same thing. So 38 will be the last row on page 1, and the first here will be 112. Now, at this point, you might want to adjust the page break so that, for example, you might want your page break to happen after where ID 72 is, so that 38 also appears on page 2 as well, so that your work looks a bit neater when you're coming to print it out. So we can simply adjust this page break by just simply clicking on it and dragging it up and down to wherever we like. So if we drag it to just below where ID 72 is, and if we go to File, Print, you'll notice that this first page will be only up until ID 72 because that's where we apply the page break. And anything after that will appear on page 2. Again, this page break preview can be applied to anywhere you like. If it's more logical for you to apply it, for example, at this point, you can also do that as well. And if you go to printer, you will notice that only up until that page break will the contents of that first page be displayed up until, and then whatever is after that page break will be displayed on page 2. So it's all about, refining your work and making your work presentable and easy to read and easy to understand. You can also change your worksheet orientation. So like I previously showed you in one of the earlier lessons, if you go to print again, sometimes it's also helpful to change your page orientation to, for example, landscape or portrait, so that your data fits better on the page as well. Again, scaling is also something that you can also do, as mentioned previously. So no scaling, fitting everything on one sheet, fit all the columns on one page, or fitting all the rows on one page as well. So that is it for lesson 7. So we looked into working with rows and columns, adjusting their height, deleting, inserting, using themes, inserting headers and footers, and preparing our document for printing. So does anyone have any questions up until this point about that lesson? If anything didn't make sense?
The insert rows
Yeah. Yeah.
command. You selected 3 rows and then it inserted 3 rows down. Can we just insert, like, is there any command that we can mention? Okay, let's insert 50 rows.
Well, it's depending on how many rows you highlight. So it's
Oh, so
entirely up to you.
we have to highlight every time to insert the rows.
Yeah, or you can insert it via here as well.
Oh, okay.
Insert columns as well. So that will. So I just highlighted for example, if I highlight 3 or 4 columns,
Okay.
again, you can insert it via this way or clicking on this drop down and inserting columns. And I selected 4 columns before, so it's going to insert
You will
4
insert
columns.
4 columns.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's how you would do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. But yeah, on Excel, there's no unfortunately, there's no options that
That mentions, like,
that allows
if
you
I
to
just
enter,
allows you to
yeah,
enter them.
enter a value to enter a certain amount
Right.
of columns or rows.
Yeah. What if we want to remove the header and footer? Do we need to go back to the same tab
Yeah.
to?
So if you go to back to print, oops, sorry, if you go back to the view tab and click on page layout, you can just simply delete these. It's up to you. Just get rid of this so that it doesn't say anything in here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Again, pretty much everything that I demonstrated in this lesson, there's also exercises for um, all of these. So, repeating the row and column title prints like I showed you previously. It's also please ensure you go through those as well. All these files are available to you through the files tab in the group. So you have access to all of these files to do these exercises yourself as well. Does anyone else have any other questions before I go on to the next lesson?
No.
Okay, so let's move on. I'll close this. So lesson 8 is managing worksheets. So in this one, we're going to look into organizing worksheets. We're going to look into using zoom and freeze to change the on-screen view. And we're going to look into using finding and replacing data as well. So organizing worksheets. So a new Excel workbook has one blank worksheet by default. There's no particular limit to how many worksheets and a workbook can contain. The order of worksheets in a workbook is determined by the sequence of tabs along the bottom of the Excel window. So this section here where it says sheet 1. You can use these tabs to switch between worksheets in a window. You can arrange these worksheets in a sensible order that helps you find them easier and keep related content grouped as well. Copying a worksheet, there's a clear difference between copying the contents of one worksheet into another and copying the worksheet in their entirety. So one big reason you'd want to copy worksheets entirely is to create a new worksheet that's identical in style and format to an existing one to enter new data into. So copying a worksheet duplicates everything, including the formatting, data, and formulas. So let's look into opening O8 SPA services. So open, browse, lesson 8 SPA services. Okay. Now here we have two worksheets in this workbook. So we have Monday and lookup. Um, what we can do is when it comes to copying a worksheet, we can to copy a worksheet, simply say if you want to copy this Monday worksheet, what we can do is if we're currently on the Monday worksheet. So if we select that worksheet, click on Control and hold on Control, and then click on Monday and drag, you will notice a little arrow appear here. Sorry, a little triangle appear here pointing downwards. Now this means where this is going to indicate where we want to copy this workbook to new workbook that we're copying to. So before Monday, in between Monday and lookup, or after lookup. So if we drop it here and release, it's going to copy that Monday worksheet in between these two worksheets that we had previously. So again, to do this, you would do Control, hold on Control, click on that worksheet tab and just drag it to whichever location you want it to duplicate to. Again, you can also do this via here. So if you click on Format and click on where it says Move or Copy Sheet here. So we've currently selected the Monday worksheet. So say, for example, we want to move this Monday worksheet all the way to the end. So for it to appear after lookup, we don't want to duplicate it. We just want to move this worksheet order and move this Monday to the end. So what we can do is we can select the option that says move to the end. And if you notice there, that Monday got moved to the last tab in that order. So it appears after lookup. Again, there's different ways of doing this. That is one method. You can also click and drag this also again to whichever position you want it to. And it will change the order for it as well again. So there's different ways of doing this. You can also rename your worksheets. So it's important when you're working with Excel, it's important to name your worksheets appropriately. So here we might want to, for example, move this one to the start Monday and then click on this, rename it. So right click on that worksheet tab and click on rename. So maybe this one might be Tuesday. And that's how you would do it. Excel gives you a newly inserted copied worksheet with temporary names, so such as sheet 2, 3, 4, or whatever. You can also change the coloring of these tabs as well, so it's a bit easier to distinguish between them. So to do this again, like how we did with the renaming of that worksheet, what you can do is if you right click again here and go to where it says tab color, we can actually assign individual tab colors to each of these sheets. So this one might be the red one, this one might be the green one, and you can set this one to be blue as well. So each of these tabs now have a name and a color, fill color that is easy to distinguish between each of these tabs. So I know Monday is a red one, Tuesday is a green one, and lookup is the blue one. You can also hide or unhide your worksheets as well. So to do this, what you can do is if you select a certain worksheet, what you can do is if you click on this right click here again, you'll see an option that says hide. What you will do is this will hide your worksheet once you click it. So right now we have 3 worksheets available here. So if we click on this, right click, click on hide. Now the contents for this worksheet haven't been deleted, they're just simply hidden, okay? And not visible to us. Now to unhide this, we can either go to format, go to visibility where it says hide or unhide and click on unhide sheet. And you can see that the Monday worksheet is available for us to unhide. And it's important to know you can also you can only unhide one worksheet at a time. Okay, so if we click on unhide, now the Monday one will appear. Okay, you can also do this through a different way. So if we click hide again, you can also unhide it from here as well. So if we right click on here, down here on one of these tabs again, you will see unhide appear, and again we can unhide this tab that we previously hid. Again, you can do the same process like I showed you through here as well. So you have hide sheet um, or unhide sheet as well. So that's how you would hide or unhide certain sheets that you might want people to see or not to see. Like I've shown you previously, to enter a new worksheet into a workbook, you can simply click on this addition sign here, which will create a new worksheet for you. And like I mentioned previously, Excel will by default name these sheets sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5, or and so on. You can also delete these sheets by right clicking and clicking on delete. You can also insert new sheets as well from here as well by clicking on insert, and it will insert a new worksheet for you as well. So let's move on to the next topic, which is using zoom and freeze to change the on-screen view. So most of the time, Microsoft Windows tries to render contents of a document, such as an Excel worksheet, at relatively the same size as it would appear if you were to print it out on a piece of paper. So that approximate size is what Excel calls 100%, okay? You can adjust the zoom that displays magnification at any time. So as I'm sure you already all probably know, so you can adjust this zoom from here. We have your plus and addition, and I will adjust that zoom for you so that it's easier for you to see data in your worksheet. We can also freeze a section, a certain portion of a window as well. So Excel allows you to freeze a portion of a worksheet on screen so that when you scroll down or when you change your magnification, you don't lose track of which elements the label refers to. Okay. So let's look into using a different workbook. So if we close this one here, and if we open '08 Spa Services Week, nope, not this one. Okay, let's just use this one, it's fine. So freezing is quite handy. So as you notice here we have some column labels here. So client name, stuff like that. So if you were to have a lot more data that spans over a lot of rows, and what you notice here is once you scroll down after a certain point, you will no longer be able to see what each of these columns are called. So if I scroll down here, I will no longer know what this column is for, okay? So what you can do is you can use freezing in Excel to freeze certain columns and rows, okay? So how do you do this is, so if we want to freeze up until this point here, what you would do is you would click on the next row after that, and where it says freeze panes, click on that drop down and freeze panes, okay? And you will notice a little line, that's a little horizontal line, will become more visible and appear here. Now this is what it's essentially done, is it's frozen all of these columns here. And if you pay attention now, so previously when I scrolled down, I could no longer see, for example, what this column was called, what this one was, what this one was, what this one was. So if you pay attention now, once I scroll down, as I scroll down, I can still see those columns and those labels, even though I'm scrolling down. Those first three columns are still visible as much as I scroll. I can scroll down as much as I like. And just makes it easier to read, and it makes it easy to work with Excel, especially when you're working with large amounts of data. Saves you time having to scroll every time up and see what this one's called, what this one's called. So that's how you would freeze it. Again, to unfreeze it, you can simply click on that row again and click on freeze panes and click on unfreeze. Okay, so if I unfreeze it, you'll notice that once I scroll down, that will no longer appear. So you don't highlight these cells, you select the row that you want. So if we want these first rows, three rows to be frozen, it's the row after it that we select and click on freeze, and it will freeze those three top rows above it for us. So that's how you would freeze certain rows or columns in Excel, which is quite handy. So next, moving on to finding and replacing data. So Excel has a find command and replace command that similarly works to Microsoft Word, only they navigate through cells instead of paragraphs. You can use the find command to search for text that you've entered as data, such as the person name, and you might want to change that. So say for example we want to replace this wherever it says so if we have, like, for example, some client names such as John. So for example, in this data that I'm entering here, that I have in this table, I might have spelt John wrong multiple times. What you can do is you can select in the editing command group, you can select the find and select option, and here where it says replace, you want to look for, what are you looking for? For here, we're looking for any Johns that have been misspelled. So there are any Johns that have been spelled as Jon. So if we so what are we looking for? John. What do we want to replace it with? So this is what we want to replace that text with. So the actual correct spelling of it, and you will notice that it will find two entries, and it will display those entries here as well. Okay, so cell B6 and B7. Okay, and what we can do is we can replace, if you pay attention here to these two cells, place, it's going to get updated and replaced, and updated and replaced, and now these have been corrected and have the correct spelling. You can also do this at once as well. So instead of doing replace one by one, you can replace all of them at once by clicking on replace all, and it says all done, we've made 2 replacements. So these 2 entries have been updated for us and replaced with the correct spelling. So that is it for that lesson as well. Does anyone else have any questions about that lesson, if any part of it didn't make sense? So we looked into organizing worksheets using Zoom and Freeze. So Freeze is quite useful and handy, and I'm finding and replacing data as well. If anyone else had any questions, guys, feel free to ask.
No, pretty clear.
Sorry?
Sasan, in the file section on the Teams, after 13 number folder, you have got the simulations and then the presentation. So what are these basically?
Are you talking about the group?
Yeah, the Teams group. I mean, on where we get the files. I just asked out of interest. Yeah,
So
class materials.
class materials,
Yeah,
MX Excel materials,
yeah.
and all the materials are here.
At the bottom. I mean, so what are these basically simulations and
Oh, so these are some files. So if you look through the material for which we're going to be covering in lesson 10 is so you'll see all these Excel documents that you have
sure.
here
Okay.
and all the ones that you have here. So these are all the Excel documents so
Okay.
that are used during these exercises.
Sure.
So for example, if we go to a certain exercise on here, let's look at it quickly. Let's look at a different lesson. 1 second, sorry. Okay, so for example, on all of these exercises, so this is the same for every single lesson, is for example, for this one where this exercise is looking into repeating rows and column print titles, it will say, for example, to do this exercise, open O7 messenger print workbook. So this is the same thing for lesson 10. So for lesson 10, for the exercises, you're going to be doing certain exercises and it's going to ask you to open certain workbooks. And if I remember correctly, lesson 10 is working with databases. So here you have like CSVs and stuff, so comma separated value folders that that have data and you're going to be importing.
Okay.
So on all of these lessons here that you see here, so here you have Excel files. Lesson 6, you have Excel files.
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
all files that you're going to be using for exercises. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it answers.
Does anyone else have any other questions? So in the first session, we covered up until session one was as lessons 1 to 4. Session 2 is lessons 5 to 8. So guys, do you have any questions? If not, I think we still have an hour left of this session, so we could probably do one small lesson, and then that will be it for today's lesson. So guys, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. So since we have an hour left of this lesson, we might as well just do one extra lesson. So we'll have still an hour left of this lesson. So what we're going to do is we'll take a 5-minute break or 5-10-minute break, and then we'll quickly go through the last lesson, which is a short one, and then that will be it for today's lesson. And if you have any questions at the end, you're going to have time to ask those as well. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's just do a we'll do a 10-minute we'll do a 10-minute break till 5 minutes past 12. Sorry, a 10-minute break till 5 minutes past 12.